Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Today we're going to dive right into proper effects setup and routing. This is the pretty standard way that we're doing these things nowadays, and I will show you the advantages of why we do it this way and the disadvantages is why we don't do it a different way, which I'll explain what those are in just a moment. I will start off in Pro Tools and I'm going to do this example here, and then I will hop over to Studio One towards the end of the video. I won't go over the concepts again, but I'll just show you how to do the same thing in Studio One, just as far as how the workflow changes. So right now I've got a Pro Tools session and I've just thrown a couple of tracks in here from a very talented singer I work with named Caitlin Pause. I hope I say that right because I sometimes mess it up. And she recorded these vocals as the hook for a song by a good friend of mine named Devin Anthony, a song called Shine Down, which I'm pretty sure he released a couple, maybe last year. But anyways, just for the sake of this session, I just brought in her vocals only so that we can hear the reverb as we go through and see those examples. So the first way that I see people use reverbs or delays, and that's kind of the main two plugins or effects types I'm going to discuss, is they use them as an insert. Now that would seem like it's the right way to do it because, you know, for anybody who's new to DAWs or getting into studio software, you come here and you can select your inserts and you put them on, and that makes sense. And for those of you who do that option, you may notice, or you guys are probably pretty aware of the wet and dry knob, where you can control, obviously the dry signal is no effect at all. The wet signal at 100% is only the effect and no more dry signal. And you guys are probably used to playing with a balance between that in order to achieve the sound that you want. Now, that works technically, okay? But let me go ahead and apply. I'm going to assume that I want reverb on every single one of the vocal tracks that I have here. And I'll play a little bit of the track so you can kind of see what it sounds like. That it doesn't play too much a part in what we're doing, but just so you can get an idea of what we have going on.
Baby, I know the sun ain't always on our side. I know you feel small in a world that's too wide. But maybe we can get to you. Maybe we can see this through. Baby, if you open up your eyes.
Obviously they sound a little dry, right? And I want to go ahead and fix that. And the first obvious thing to do would say, let me go ahead and put reverb on my main vocal, right?
Baby, I know you feel small in a world that's too wide.
Actually bring my dry wet up.
I know you feel small in a world that's too wide.
So some people might be okay with that, but I'm going to go ahead and point out a couple of problems that I already have with just that situation, okay? The first problem I have is I have to go into this reverb plugin and I have to come here and affect the dry and wet knob every single time I want to make an adjustment of how much reverb I have just on the lead vocal for this channel. That to me is already a workflow problem because that's extra time I'm going to have to do this every single time I want to adjust how much reverb is on this part. Another thing that I'll point out that some people might skip over is this is a mono channel that is carrying her voice. Now, for a lot of you who mix and receive online stems, you might get used to receiving most of your stems as stereo tracks already. And so if you were to apply this reverb plugin to the track, it would appear as stereo already, and therefore you would get a stereo reverb. But I recorded this, and a lot of the sessions I receive are recorded where people who use a mono source will keep a mono track. And in that case, the reverb is coming out as mono. I'm not getting that wide stereo effect of reverb that we really want to create our depth in our space, that really gives the song the feel that we're going for. So that's already a big problem for me, and what I would have to do is drag this audio clip to a stereo track, make sure it plays in stereo as opposed to just left or right, and then put the reverb on that. Now that's 2 or 3 more extra steps that I could have avoided if I do things a different way. Let me also say, very rarely am I going to put reverb on just the lead vocal and leave all my harmonies and backgrounds dry. I don't want to do that either. Now, if I use this insert method, I'm going to have to put a reverb on every single one of these tracks, a reverb plugin. And realistically, I'm probably not going to change the reverb settings between each channel. Like, they're all going to be the same, right? So all I'm going to ever be changing is just the level. Me having to pop this plugin open every single time is crazy. Another thing that I'll point out too is If you come here to Windows and go to System Usage, one big thing that we have to be very aware of in our sessions is how much computer power we are using up to achieve the process, the final session or mix that we're trying to get to. And so right now you can see it says 4%, and I have all these on here, and that doesn't seem like I'm using up a lot of my system, but these are not in the process of processing anything, right? So let me go ahead and play some of this.
Maybe we can see this through.
And notice how I jumped up to about 32, 33% of my computer usage. That is with just a hook main vocal, a couple of harmonies, and just putting reverb on them. And I've already used up almost a third of my CPU power, right? And that is because I have so many instances of this reverb. So it seems counterintuitive to want to do this. Now, this is just reverb, right? Let's say I want to add a echo to my lead vocal. Well, I'm going to populate an echo in here, and when I do that, yes, I'm going to add more percentage. I now jump up to about 37, 38, and I'm using up, at least in Pro Tools, now I've wasted 2 of my insert slots for my plugins on a reverb and an echo, right? And let's say I want to have 2 types of echo on this vocal. I'll need to add another echo plugin in here, and again, you run out of space. Your workflow to have to get in here and change your wet and dry settings is a little bit much. So this seems like a very inefficient, non-economic way to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the way that it makes more sense for those of you who don't know, and this is pretty standard. So I would encourage you to start working like this from here on out. What I need to do first is I need to create what I'm going to call an effects auxiliary, right? And so in order to do that in Pro Tools, I need to create a new track. And so my key command is going to be Control Shift N, or if you're on Mac, Command Shift N, and I'm going to hit that. And I've got option to create a new track. I'm going to go ahead and create, I want it to be a stereo track because I want my effects to have a stereo image. And I'm going to use aux tracks. Okay, and I'm going to create 2 because I want one for a reverb and one for a delay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create that. And I'm going to go ahead and name those because remember, we want to keep our sessions as organized as possible, just for good habits. Okay, so let me go ahead and add the reverb I was using, which is the Abbey Road's Plate by Waves. It's very solid reverb. Now, what you're going to notice a little bit different is once I put this reverb onto an aux, you'll notice that it automatically set my dry wet knob to 100% wet, okay? The reason being is that there is no direct audio signal coming through this auxiliary channel, okay? The only thing this channel is going to be doing is producing reverb, and in that case, I want it to produce as much reverb as possible because that's all I'm using it for. I don't want to short myself with the amount of reverb that the plugin is going to spit out, okay? And let me go ahead and add a delay plugin, and for this plugin I'm using the Echo Boy by Soundtoys, also a very great one. This one doesn't default from dry to wet, but I want to make sure I set it to 100% wet because that is the purpose of it in this particular case. Okay, now in order to get sound, these channels here that have her vocals on them over to these plugins to get processed with reverb, I need to create an internal busing system in order to get them over there, okay? You'll see on these channels, I've already got some buses set up. I've got them inactive, so I'll go ahead and make these active. And you'll notice that on each one of these channels, I am duplicating the signal here before I get down to my main fader of that channel. I am duplicating the signal, and I am sending it to an internal bus, which is bus 1 and 2. Okay, so I know that each one of these channels is going to bus 1 and 2, and I specifically want reverb on every single vocal channel, so that's why every single vocal channel goes to bus 1 and 2. So what I need to do is I need to tell my reverb auxiliary to receive the signal from bus 1 and 2. Okay, and so now if I play any of these vocals, you're going to see them coming over here to the reverb, okay? Now I want to do the same thing for my delay. I have that going to bus 3 and 4, so I'm going to go to my delay and select 3 and 4, okay? As soon as I do that, we can hear almost identically the same reverb settings I had with all of those reverb plugins that I had on inserts, but now I've got one reverb plugin here that is handling all of that. Okay, and the way that I change the level of the amount of reverb on each channel is I can click on my send here, or my bus, my send to my bus, and I can turn that level up and down. So, and what's nifty about this is, again, you can send infinite things to this one reverb aux, and it will apply the same style of reverb that you have selected here to all of those channels. And again, I'm doing all of this with one plugin. So along with the ease of, if I have to make any style changes, I only have to do it once to the plugins, and then everything else here is level based. The other thing that's really great about this is that I am saving a ton of CPU power, right?
Maybe we can see this through. Baby, if you open up your...
I'm processing the same amount of channels with the same amount of reverb that I was before and delay, and I'm only hitting at max 20%. That's 15% less than where I was at before. That's a big deal, especially when you start getting into large, with sessions with large track counts. You don't want to run out of that CPU power, because once you start getting into that 80s and 90s, it's going to start acting funny. You're going to start getting crashes and glitches, and that's never a good thing, okay? So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Really quick, I'm going to hop over to Studio One and just explain how to set up parallel effects as opposed to insert effects. I'll show you guys how to do that in Studio One, because it's slightly different, but it's a little bit easier. Okay guys, so I'm over in Studio One and I've got almost an identical session setup. Okay, so I've still got the same vocals here that I had in the other session. What I want to show you just really quick is how to set up a effects return. This is super simple, so this will not take more than like a minute to explain. How in Pro Tools you saw that I had to create an aux channel and then manually set up my internal busing, telling what bus for each aux to receive from, and then having to send or tell my channels to send to that bus in order to get the signal over there. Studio One does all of that work for us and really simplifies everything here. So the quickest way I could do this is I could right click anywhere in my mix window and I can click add an effects channel. You notice that I've got a key command here that says Alt F. That one seems easier for me, F for effects. So if I hit Alt F, you'll see that it creates an effects channel here. So let me go ahead and name this reverb, how I did in the Pro Tools session. Let me create another one, and I'm going to go ahead and name this delay. Okay, now there's no option here, right? I've got my output options here, but there's no option for inputs to set up an internal busing system because Studio One already does it automatically. So if I come over here to any of my vocals, let me say my main vocals, and I hit to add a send, if I scroll down to the bottom, I start seeing my internal buses, and down here at the bottom, I see where the effects symbol is, and then I see reverb. If I create that, now I've created a send to my reverb auxiliary, right? And I'll go ahead and throw a reverb plugin on there so that we can see that in action. Again, I want to set my wet dry to all the way to 100% wet, because it is a sidechain effect, meaning it's only going to output reverb, so I want the full amount of reverb, okay? And now if I hit play,
Baby,
ton of reverb, right? And I can probably bring that down some.
sun ain't always on our side.
So again, way quicker. I have a key command, quickly throw the effects channel on there, and again, once I name it, that name will pop up in my available sends list. Here's my delay. The concept is exactly the same. So again, I hope that is useful, and I hope that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment. I can go into more detail if I need to. And I appreciate you guys for checking this out. Thank you.